Going on, guys? Brian Berryman here from FantasyLabs. Super excited to be breaking down the Open Championship with you guys. I'm going to be making a quick video on how I use the FantasyLabs models feature on a weekly basis to identify plays for both GPPs and for cash games. So I'll first just start off by explaining what the models feature is, how you use it, how you can adjust it to fit your needs. It's very simple. It's very intuitive. And I think it's going to be a very useful tool for those who don't currently use it. From there, I will kind of break down my thoughts on the course for this week, how I see the Open playing out in general, and how we can use those thoughts to adjust my model and hopefully find some plays that will make us some money this weekend. So let's get started. So first, what you'll do to access the models page is go into golf, obviously, and then models, which will bring up the page that we're currently on. From there, you'll want to hit this drop down, which will bring up this models modal here, and click on Pro Models, and then scroll down to where I have two templates already loaded in for you guys. There is two models, obviously, but there is the cash game model and the GPP model. For demonstration purposes, let's just load in the GPP model. Once it's loaded in, what you want to do is go over here to the edit model. And this is where you can see all the different stats that we have available for you guys to weight as you see fit. Obviously, not all of these statistics are going to be applicable on a given week. But depending on your play style and what you're looking for in a specific player for a specific week, all of these can definitely be used in order to make your model. So I think I provided a pretty good starting point for GPPs. This week, especially, what we're going to be wanting to look for are some ball strikers that have some length. I think with the way that the course is going to be set up, it's going to be burnt out. There's going to be advantages to players who hit the ball a little bit longer because the winds, at least as of right now, are going to be on the tame side of things. Right now, the forecast is between 8 to 12 mile an hour winds, gusts up to 20, which isn't bad at all when you're talking about an Open Championship. Obviously, things can change on the drop of a hat. So we don't want to get too hung up on anything right now. But with the information that we have right now, I'm pretty confident in that approach. But for the purposes of the demonstration, just to kind of show you how the model works, say you didn't agree with my assumption that driving distance would matter, you'd probably want to back the driving distance down to 0 and maybe apply some more weight to putting. Maybe you think it's going to be more of a putting contest. You can mess with these sliders however you see fit. Taking down and adding and subtracting from wherever you believe would be a better fit. As you do this, if you hit the update button, it will update your model and show you a historical performance of what that model would be like if looking back in a few different time frames. You could go back a year or all time, and it's going to give you this R-squared value up here. R-squared is basically going to be a predictive number that's 0 to 1. That's going to show you how predictive your model is. The closer you can get it to 1, the better. It's going to be more predictive. But in general, I wouldn't get too hung up on that as long as you're making the appropriate decisions based on your own thoughts and your own research. I think it's fine. But that's it. It's as simple as that, guys. The model feature is great. It's very intuitive, and it's going to populate here the different ratings for all your players based on the inputs that you put over here on the left. So with the changes I made to this model, it's going to spit out again the different. It really is liking Rory McIlroy. To no surprise, he's the betting favorite this week. He's had tremendous success at Open Championships in the past, and he fits this course to a T. And then going down the list here, what you can do is kind of look at the salaries and see where the rating is going to be higher on some of these cheaper guys to maybe identify some lower salary guys that you could fit into some lineups. The one that's popping out to me right now is Jordan L. Smith. So last week, he played in the Scottish Open, started with 3 rounds under par and was in contention on Sunday before shooting a 74, which kind of knocked him back. I think he finished 25th or something like that. But this kid has been really, really solid on the European Tour. He's top 10 in driving distance, top 20 in driving accuracy, 5th in overall stroke average. And he's just been on a tear on the European Tour. I think he has 5 top 25 finishes in a row. So this would be a great value pick and something that the model is kind of identified for us here. So that's one example of how you can kind of use this feature to identify some plays. I think, it's a very intuitive, very great feature that should be incorporated into everyone's weekly process if you're using FantasyLabs for golf. To switch models, again, it's just as simple as this. You just want to go into here, and then again, let's flip to the cash game model to see how that's going to be different for us this week. So it's kind of similar at the top, to no surprise, but what I have for the cash game model is going to be more focused on limiting downside and going with a more conservative approach. So guys that are, hitting more greens and regulations, that are, better tee to green, not necessarily the guys that are going to be putting up huge birdie numbers, but the guys that are going to be making more cuts, hitting greens in regulation, and keeping themselves out of trouble. Again, feel free to adjust this model however you see fit. Maybe you don't agree with me this week and you want to change some stuff. Absolutely fine. This is just the model that I am going with for the Open Championship. In this cash game model, I want to start with the first one being Tony Finau. The guy has just been on an absolute tear with the ball striking over the last 4 to 5 weeks. He seems to have regained his confidence and has regained the elite ball striking profile that we've grown accustomed to with Tony over the years. We know he also hits the ball a country mile. So he sets up perfectly to attack this burnt out setup that's the old course is going to be offering this week. He should have no problem piling up some birdies for us. And I think in this low to mid 8K range, Tony's going to be fitting in a lot of our optimal cash game builds for this week. And I think he is an excellent place to start your cash game builds for the week. The next guy I talked about, I just touched on briefly in the GPP section, but it's Rory McIlroy. The guy has just been absolutely unbelievable over the last 2 months. The elite player is completely back that we've grown accustomed to seeing. And really, he's just teared up Open Championships in his career, with the exception to 2019, where he missed the cut. The 4 prior years where he played in the Open Championship, he finished in the top 5, and he won it once. The guy loves these sorts of layouts. It sets up perfectly for his game. He hits the ball over 315 yards on average and should definitely be able to attack this course in a similar fashion to how Tony Finau is hoping to attack this course this week. He's an elite in all facets of the game. The only problem is, obviously, he's the most expensive player on the board. So it may be tough to fit him if you are not comfortable with some of the lower value plays in the low 7 or high 6K range. But if you are able to find a build that you're comfortable with and you can get up to Rory McIlroy, I absolutely love the play. He's my highest projected player in the whole field at 88.92 DraftKings points, and he should be an excellent fit for St. Andrews. So if you can get him in, definitely try to do so. Another name that I'm really liking for this week, Ryan Fox. He's interesting because we don't have a ton of data on him. The data we do have is mostly from the European Tour, where he is dominated. He hits it 315 yards on average. He's top 10 in most scoring metrics out there and has 3 top 3 finishes in his last 5 starts. So the guy has just been on the cusp of a win. Obviously, the competition level is a little bit lower than the PGA Tour, but the man is playing some great golf. He did play last week at the Scottish Open, didn't have a great showing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to do well this week. He fits the course extremely well. Like I said, he bombs the ball and should be able to put up some good scoring numbers. So at 7,100, I think he's also a great pick for some cash game teams out there. Should be a really solid value at the bottom end of your rosters. Just some personal thoughts to kind of close this segment out. There are three guys that I really think could be great plays in GPPs for this week that I wanted to bring up with you. So I'm going to pull up my personal model here that focuses more on short term. I have data from all the strokes gain categories going back to the last 50 rounds on all these guys, as well as some weighted birdie or better percentage and some wedge proximity and 3-putt avoidance. My thought on the wedge proximity, there are 14 par fours on this course, 7 of which measure under 400 yards. There's going to be a lot of shots coming from the 75 to 125 yard range from all sorts of hitters, the long hitters, the short hitters. It doesn't matter. All these guys are going to be able to get it out there and have short numbers in. I want the guys that are going to be able to throw darts because the RNA is going to try to protect these pin positions at all costs. Modern technology, they know that the course can't withstand without some tough pin positions. The greens here are obviously absolutely massive, and they're going to be trying to tuck them behind these pop bunkers on the sides of these undulating hills on the greens. So we're going to be needing some very solid and accurate wedge play this week. So I have that weighted here, as well as, like I said, the 3-putt avoidance, because these greens on average are about 22,000 square feet, which is absolutely absurd. Pebble Beach, for comparison, is 3,500 square feet per green, and Augusta National is 6,000 square feet. So we're talking nearly 4 times the size on average than Augusta National's greens. So these guys are going to be faced with some of the longest putts of their entire life, 50, 100, 125 feet sometimes. And we're going to need them to 2-putt those. So being able to be a great lag putter here this week is going to be huge. So I wanted to add that into my model. But I wanted to highlight 3 plays before I let you guys go here on this video that I think could be low-owned flyers that could help people win tournaments this week. They're not the sexiest plays. They haven't been hitting the ball fantastic. They haven't been at the top of the leaderboards. But in GPPs, you need to take some chances, and you're going to have to look for the guys that are going overlooked by the field. 3 that I think this week could be great. The first one, Chris Kirk. I'll highlight him here just so you guys can easily see it. But he didn't play particularly well last week, but he did make the cut, which is, I guess, a great starting point. In general, he's a fantastic ball striker. If you kind of look at the strokes gained approach and strokes gained off the tee numbers over the last 8, 12, 24, and 50 rounds, you can see that he's pretty consistent with regards to his ball striking across all categories, which is going to be huge here, something I'm looking for. Obviously, also, he's a birdie, pretty good at birdie better percentage. Not elite, but definitely in the upper, I'd say 25% of this field. And the thing I like a lot about him is he's a great wedge player. As you look at his wedge proximity, he's in the top 15 in most categories when you're talking about the 75 to 125 yard range across all the different round sample sizes. He's a great option. And if he's going to be going overlooked, I'd be willing to take a chance on him at his $6,800 price tag on DraftKings. Next play that I'll be looking at is Mito Pereira. If you guys have read the Action Network, the Action Network best bets, you can tell that I'm a huge Mito Pereira truther. I've picked him, I think, in a couple segments. Unfortunately, he hasn't gotten there for us, but I do believe that this kid is going to be a fantastic PGA player. Again, elite ball striker when we're looking across all the different sample sizes, top 20 in the last 50 rounds in both strokes gained off the tee and strokes gained approach, top 15 over the last 24 rounds. He's been making birdies in bunches over the last 24 rounds as well, top 20 across the board. And he is another player who is pretty good with his wedges from the 100 to 125 range. Again, a range that I'm looking to target this week. So, again, we're talking about upside. He has missed his last 3 cuts, but again, we're talking about a player that can get hot with his irons, can make birdies, and at 7,300 is likely to go overlooked because of the recent form. But don't forget, he should have won the PGA Championship if he just would have not hit driver on 18. Not to say that it was a bad decision, but it was heartbreaking to say the least, especially for those who had backed him, that he didn't get that job done because he did play so well all week. So he has the upside. He has the game to compete at the highest level. against top tier talent. So I think at 7,300, if you can get Mito Pereira for under 6 or 7%, I think that's a play that we're just going to have to make. We'll see what ownership dictates as the week goes on. But I think that is a solid option. The last guy that I am looking at this week that I think is going to provide some solid upside for the price is Taylor Gooch. This is a guy who obviously defected to the Live Tour and wasn't a very popular decision. He's been quoted as saying that the atmosphere at Live events is the same as the Ryder Cup events, which yeah, that's not right. I'm sorry. You've never played in a Ryder Cup. I know that by saying that, that was kind of ridiculous. But regardless, if we're just looking at the stats, Taylor Gooch is a great option this week. Kind of fits the mold of what we talked about, right? He's a great ball striker, consistent over the last 50 rounds. You know, he's 19th in the field in strokes gained approach, and is a very solid lag putter. Third in this field in 3-putt avoidance, while also being a stud with his wedges from 100 to 125 yard range. He hits the ball over 300 yards, so he should have no problem on this course keeping up with some of the big dogs. And I think when you're talking about a guy who has the upside, we've seen it again. He's finished in the top 25 in 4 of his last 6 events, and really think that this is a play that we can definitely go to in the low 7K range. So that's it. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a feel for my process, kind of what I do on a week-to-week basis, how I use FantasyLabs to try to identify some plays. Give it a try. Let me know if you have any questions or things we might be able to improve on with the product. Would love to hear your thoughts and see how we can improve. Follow me on Twitter. Go ahead and shoot me a DM. My Twitter handle is my last name, basically. So it's at Berryman, but instead of the B, it's a 13 to make a B. So it's at 13ERRYMAN. Go ahead and give me a follow over there and shoot me a DM if you have any questions on anything. I'd love to help you out. Good luck this week, and I'll hope to see you guys towards the top of the leaderboards. Have a good one.